So who is to blame for your math anxiety? 40% of the US claims that they hate math, and this might not seem like a huge number, but this doesn't include people who just dislike it or isn't their favorite, but really just can't stand it. And it really can't be ignored. So that's why for my project, I decided to take a look into why there is a stigma around math. And in this little study, I'll be interviewing elementary school kids. So some goals and hopes while going into this. So obviously, just getting a brief understanding of why there's a stigma around math, as well as looking specifically into the parental effect, and as well as what we can do better. So the reason I chose to do the parental effect specifically is because there are so many different aspects you can look at when you're going into this big question. But the parental effect is probably one of the most important adult figures in children's lives and development. And Dr. Evans and Dr. Field, professors of the University of Sussex, said that the early experiences parents provide for their children lay the foundations of what follows in formal schooling by developing skills and promoting the desire for acquisition of knowledge. So basically, adults are the most important figures when it comes to the development of children. So major points of focus, parental influence, the parent self. So it has been proven, and you may already know this, that if your parent is already in the STEM field, you are way more likely to go into the STEM field yourself. Parents' attitude. There was a study that I actually read that said that if a parent has math anxiety and attempts to help their kid with math homework while having the wrong attitude, it can actually be more devastating than if they just didn't help them at all, which I thought was kind of interesting. And then parents' actions. So this includes if they help them with homework as well as the toys and activities that they encourage and provide. Okay, so this was my original plan. I had 5 steps. I thought it was going to be super straightforward and easy. It was not. So this is what actually happened, because for some reason it completely slipped my mind that it's literally impossible to do interviews on elementary school kids without a permission slip. So that totally took me off the wrong track, and I had to take many trips to the central office, and I had to write so many emails. And so I didn't start my interviews until halfway through the 3rd week, which was kind of crazy. So actually composing and the permission slip and survey. So this is pretty straightforward. It's just who I am, information about myself, the project, contact information, and I had the parents also provide their own email and phone number. Composing the survey. So I'm taking a look at the parental effect. So I had questions like, do your parents and guardians like math? As well as, what do your parents do for work? And this was directly aimed towards the parent's self. Parents' attitude. So I asked questions like, does your parent or guardian make math homework fun? And do you talk about math at home with your family? And parents' action. So I basically asked them, do you even get help with homework in the first place, as well as a look into the different toys and activities that their parents have provided, as well as if they actually enjoy those toys. So I can compare what the parent actually provides for their kids and if they're following their interests or not. So the actual interviews. So I interviewed 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And for the 3rd and 4th graders, I used voice memos, and I went there in person and recorded them. My original thought was not to be recording them because I thought that'd be way faster, I guess, and just way less complicated. But for the purpose of not confusing myself or distracting the kids, I decided to just record it. That way I can give my full attention to each of the students. The 5th graders were way more complicated because they were doing standardized testing and they went on a class trip. I could not get in when they were also in the school. So I ended up writing a Google form with all my information, all the same questions. They could skip questions, all that same sort of stuff, and that worked out pretty well, I think. My results. So I only wrote down 4 questions just because I only have limited time, and I thought these were the most prevalent. So the first question was, do your parents enjoy math? And for the kids who were confident, 50% of them said that both their parents like math, and over a third said that at least one of their parent figures like math. Versus kids who are not confident, you can see in the pink it's grown very much because so the pink is neither of the parents like math, and that grew a lot with the kids who are not confident in math. So you can totally see that little difference there. And then for the kids who were confident in math for the question, what do your parents do for work? And I looked specifically at if they were involved in STEM or not. So you can see almost 62% of students had parents who had jobs involved in STEM. Versus this, and again, the pink is neither the parents, and that grew a lot. Do you get help with math homework? The kids who are confident, more than half of them said yes, versus the kids who were not confident, almost 85% of them said no. So you can totally see the lack of support that the kids who are not confident get at home. And then the last thing I looked at that I thought was interesting was, do your parents make math homework fun? Like, is it actually enjoyable for you? And all the kids who were confident either said yes or kind of, versus the kids who were not confident, almost half of them said no. So I thought that was pretty interesting. All right, so these are some notable moments from my interviews that I thought I would just say. So my very first interview, I was this little 3rd grade boy in Miss Whalen's class, and I went in and I was like, okay, who wants to go first? And he volunteered, and he was already wearing like a dress shirt and dress pants. And then I was like, okay, come on to the hall with me. And he went over to his desk and grabbed like a tie and a suit jacket and stuff. And he was so professional, and it was just like the cutest thing ever. Okay, interview number 16. So this girl was in 4th grade, and she was interesting because she really loved math, but both her parents did not, and she made a point to actually say that to me. And she was like, I just really want to see if I can be good at math, even though my parents aren't. And I thought that was like the plot of a movie or something. I was like, that's like so cool. And she also does not like history. She was like, history already happened. Like, we need to be moving forward, okay? And I was like, okay. And then when I asked her about if she finds math homework fun because of her parents, she's like, well, it's already fun on its own. So she was very, very confident, which I thought was just so cute. This is not so cute, but it's worth noting. So I interviewed 35 kids, and the only 2 that said that their least favorite was math, and they also did not at all feel confident, were these 2 girls. And it's weird because both of them happened to have twin brothers, and they both made a note to say that their twin brother was way better than them. And I can go on forever about this because this kind of goes into like the gender discussion with STEM and like the confidence, and it just really shows that even if you have the same parents, like if you categorize your kids, things will end up happening, and you'll get girls who are not confident at all in STEM fields. So, okay, successes and challenges. So it was a huge success for doing the interviews. All the kids were actually so like sweet and encouraging, and you could tell they really wanted to be interviewed, which was awesome because I was really nervous. I was like forcing them to or something. So that was just awesome. And challenges was the whole permission slip thing because that took way too long, and I did not plan for that at all. But it all worked out, so that's good. The other challenge is that I found out like so much information, but I only have such a short amount of time to say all of it, so it's kind of hard to like cut back on what I should say and what I shouldn't. So biggest takeaways. I have a lot of takeaways, but I think the biggest one is that I actually really enjoy working with kids, and I never thought I would ever say that because I always was like, oh, kids are like the worst. I hate them and stuff. But after like working with so many of them, like they're really just so like pure and just they're funny, and I really enjoyed working with them. So I'm not gonna let that go when looking into like future jobs and opportunities and stuff. Skills gained from FHS. So ability to write professional emails as well as just talking professionally to adults. Ability to keep composure under stress, and ability to take initiative. And I have lots of thank yous. So Ms. Peterson, Ms. Levitt, Ms. Shen, Ms. Safley, Mrs. Blyer, Mrs. McManus, Mrs. Grimm, the teachers of MLS, the students and the parents of students at MLS, Mrs. Hornschild-Bear and the other office ladies at MLS, Dr. Hine, Mrs. Edwards, and my parents. Questions? Oh, God. Yes, Ms. Blyer. Yeah, so I mean, there's so many different ways. Like, so teachers obviously have such a great impact, and like, if I had more time, I was gonna look into like the teachers each kid had, and like if they liked math and stuff. But I think because all adult figures have such great impact on the kids, so I think having a positive attitude for your students and stuff as well could have a really great impact if they can't get help for their parents. Yes. Yes. So, I mean, both my brother and I really like math, obviously. And our parents, I mean, there's pictures of us doing like puzzles when we were like 5 and stuff. And a lot of the kids, when they were like, yeah, my parents make math homework fun and stuff, I was like, yeah, I felt the same way when I was younger. Like, I thought math homework was actually fun, which is so weird. But like, I definitely saw similarities, especially with like the little 4th grade girl, because she did not like history, and I'm the same way. So I was like, I totally relate to you. So, yes. I don't. I think it's just like the attitude of it, I think. Like, it's hard to like make it fun if you're already like so worked up about it. Because I feel like I've seen so many parents like get stressed while they're trying to help their kids, I guess. And then from then on, it's like the kid associates math with like the stressful tendencies as well as just like this anxious point of view, I guess. So just making sure, even if you don't like math, like not like trash talking it and stuff, and like having like an open point of view, I guess. Yeah. Yes.
All right. Hi, everyone. My project is Courses to Create, in which I watched instructional videos to teach me how to use certain programs. So my project goal, can I use online courses to significantly increase my skills for core programs used by designers today? As you'll see, the answer is definitely yes. But I want to talk a little bit more about exactly what I learned and what is next for me. So the why and what. So when I visited the design school at UT Austin, they don't teach you the tools. You have to already have known them before you have come, and they aren't going to take any time to have you learn them. And it would be like me going to music school not knowing how to play an instrument. You need to know these tools if you want to be able to succeed within these environments and learn the concepts and theories that these schools are teaching you when it comes to design. So my process. My process started with research. This was finding courses that I felt would best suit me and my goals for creating images and different concepts for my art. So I then had to consume these instructional videos. How am I going to consume them in a way that's effective for me and allows for me to succeed in creating? Then it involved experimenting. How can I experiment with these tools that I've learned? How am I able to use them in a way that displays the message that I'm trying to garner from what I have made? Then finally, build. How can I fully build and execute my image so that it is understandable to an audience? My evolution. So the image that you see here is what I first started with. That is how I first started working in Illustrator. And then my transformation for just a month of work and how I was able to create an image that is much more detailed, layered, shadowed, and lit. What happened? What were some of the tools and things that I learned that allowed me to create an image like that? Better masking, expertise in using guides, next level use of layers, and shadowing. While I did know how to use some of these, I wasn't effective enough at using them, and that slowed me down. Efficiency is key in using these. So masks. Masks are really important. A layer mask can be used to hide specific areas of selected layer within an image, or to make other areas of a layer visible using brush tools to highlight segments of an image layer. As you can see, that's Andrew right there, and he looks a little different than he usually is. So guides. Guides are something that I've primarily used within Illustrator, and they're actually really important for if you want to size your image properly, use brush strokes, and object sizing. You can use them in other programs. I know Photoshop uses them, but I primarily use it in Illustrator since it's vector-based versus pixels. So another one, use of layers. So use of layers, again, something I've used before, but I haven't used it effectively and efficiently. So as you can see here, I have labeled everything, sized it, and made it so that it's easily able for me to go through it, edit, and change certain parts. And then shadowing. Shadowing, again, that relates to uses of masks and gradients, which are something that is the main way that I've created shadows. And it definitely allows for you to create an image that would normally look a little more 2D and create more of a 3D effect to it. And then here are some of the creations that I've made within Photoshop. All right, now to some of my challenges. So time. I am awful at time management. I think my parents and both my teachers would attest to that. While I did get COVID in the middle of this project, it made it hard for me to find the time during that and the kind of the will to want to do it. And then also having the tennis season, I didn't make ample time for myself when I should have, so it made more of a time crunch at the end than I had hoped for. So my takeaways. My takeaways have mainly been, what do I need to learn for college? So for high school at least, some of these tools aren't taught to you. So I needed to find a time where I am able to learn them. And senior projects have been the perfect moment to learn that. Then for learning specifics, I need to understand and get much faster at using these programs. So learning the specifics of what make these programs so powerful. Learning commands, learning how to use them efficiently and effectively again. And then I still have a lot to go. I still have a lot of programs I want to learn. and a lot of things I want to learn within them. I've only really worked with 3 programs here, Illustrator, Photoshop, and Procreate, and I want to hopefully expand that. So what do I have remaining? So I have Autodesk Vision 360, which is used a lot for app and web design, and I hope to use that for UI design as well. And then I also have Figma and SketchUp, which are also used a lot for those. You've probably used SketchUp before. I bet many of you have used that in middle school, where you're creating like the house project. And then sketching. Sketching is actually something that is a 2-semester requirement for me next year, and is something that a lot of creatives use before they even get into programs. They use it to brainstorm ideas with others, and then they get into how they're going to create their objects. So then Python scripting. Python is used a lot for statistical analysis and many machine learning systems. And then visual AI methods, which is something that's developing a lot within our sphere now, is how AI is able to create different images, like it could be like an ocean or something like that. It would make what you're doing in Photoshop happen in 30 seconds. Now, I would like to say my thank yous. Thank you to Ms. Metzger. Throughout my 4 years, she has been a major help in allowing me to create and have a passion for creating, and that is definitely sparked within my freshman year at high school. Mr. Willett for being my project advisor, even though he was 40 minutes late yesterday. Deke, who actually taught me everything that I learned in Photoshop and Illustrator here. My parents and my dad for helping me throughout this whole project. Ms. Levitt, Ms. Peterson, and FHS for this opportunity. Thank you. Oh, Ms. Blair.
Out of the 3 programs you researched and played around with, which one do you think is the most intuitive? The one that like somebody could just pick up and
So her question, Ms. Blair's question was, which do I think is the most intuitive? I found that Illustrator is probably the most intuitive. It's pretty easy to jump in, and that's the one that I started with. You can create very simple vector images right away. They might not look like amazing, but it's definitely a way to get started. I would say the hardest of them, though, is Photoshop. That's the one I've struggled with the most and what I've tried to focus on. Kate. So I plan to use them a lot. The question was, what do I plan to use these for after college? My plan is to use them a lot for creating logos or just simple designs. I'm not too much into like drawing and that kind of action, but it definitely, starting with that has allowed me to get into more advanced things within like graphic design. Mr. Berkmeyer.
Do you learn more by doing or by watching what other people did online?
The question was, did I learn more by watching or by doing? I would say it was a happy medium. A lot of the time, I would watch the instructional video, then try and create at the same time. It allowed for me both to take in the information and kind of do it on my own. So it allowed for like a good balance of both worlds. Amps. So the question was, what inspired me to do this? I've always been really into using digital technology, especially with COVID. It made it so, honestly, the easiest thing to create with was the computer. So just kind of starting there and then wanting to create more images and seeing what people are making a lot now and how a lot of digital art is becoming really impactful within large companies. You'll see that with Apple or with 3M.
All right, hello everyone. I'm Brady. I went on a road trip to national parks and I documented it. My inquiry question was, how can I document my experiences on a road trip to 4 different national parks in a way that inspire others to get out more? During COVID, I noticed that I actually kind of stopped camping and going out. I don't know if it's because I was scared to go outside or anything, but I realized I really miss camping and doing these things with people I like. So I decided I was going to go on a road trip and then document my experiences on my camera and then try to make a documentary that would inspire others to want to go out and see the world. My planning process, basically, this was the first 2 weeks of the project. I had to book all my campsites in the national parks. I had to find all the good hikes, which was actually pretty easy because people are pretty vocal about what they think is the best in these parks. I had to find all our camping gear, which was easy, but then it all ended up smelling bad, so I had to clean it all. Our tent needed 2 days to air out. I had to get the car ready, which was basically cleaning all of my sister's stuff out of it and then putting all my stuff into it. And then I had to invite my brother because my mom said I wasn't allowed to go alone. Our first stop on the trip was Niagara Falls, which is in Buffalo by Canada, if you don't know. It's actually really cool. It's way bigger than you would expect, which I know sounds weird because everyone says it's the big fall, but it's bigger than you'd think. When you get there, there's a small fall, and then there's the big one, and you can't see the big one when you get there. So you get there and you look to your left, and it's almost underwhelming in a way. You can see the wind right there. But the first fall was underwhelming, and I thought to myself, wow, Niagara Falls is pretty small. And then I went on the boat, and I saw the big one, and it is very big. You can feel the force of the water when it's coming down. And as you saw, the wind is very strong. And it was a lot of fun. If you go, I recommend taking the boat. Next, we went to the Cuyahoga Valley, which is in Ohio. It's just south of Cleveland, if anyone knows what's in Ohio. So the places we went there, top right is the Brandywine Falls, which is a 4-mile hike in and out, which is actually super cool. The formation of the fall was from an iceberg a while ago, when there were icebergs in Ohio, that basically slid through and cut through all the rocks, and then the waterfall came. When you go to the top of the fall, there's really only this much water that's coming down the fall, but then as you can see, obviously, it's pretty cool. The middle picture right there is what's called Beaver Marsh. We went there twice, did not see a single beaver. The name is lying. Bottom right is the ledges. Once again, it was an iceberg that came through and just cuts through rock. So it's just big rocks. Big rocks are cool. The next place that we went was the New River Gorge. The New River Gorge is basically a valley with a river in the bottom of it, as you can see. So this is the big bridge in the bottom left. You can drive across the bridge, and when you're driving across, you can look to your right, and you probably get the best view of any view in the park. Sadly, you can't stop and take pictures because it is a highway, but when you get there, you pull into the park, you can see it all. The bottom right is where we went camping. You can camp all around the river, and it's a pretty sketchy drive to the campground, actually, because it's a road that should be 1 lane, but it's 2, and it's very windy, and we almost got hit twice. Top left is a view from a hike that was about 5 miles in, and you get to this ledge, and you can kind of look out and see the whole park, which is super interesting. To the right, this is actually a little story. So this is what it's supposed to look like from the bridge, if it'll load. There we go. So this is a bridge next to our campsite, and this is what the area is supposed to look like when it's nice out. And then this is what it looked like one night. Come on. There we go. This is what it looked like one night, because I wanted to get a photo of the fog, and then I got to the bridge, and I realized it's going to rain. And I get there, and as I can see, you can start seeing a little bit of rain a little bit, but the fog, so then I book it back to the campsite because it's going to start pouring. And this is about 4:30, and I get there, and it's just downpouring. So then Liam and I, sadly, are stuck in the tent at around 4 o'clock for the rest of the night because that's the only dry space we have available. So that was some fun bonding. Up next was in Virginia, the Shenandoah Valley, which everyone knows from the song Country Roads. This place actually had the most wildlife we saw anywhere. You can see my lizard friend and then the deer that was right next to our campsite. It was super cool. Every day we were there, we saw a deer, and then a deer came within like 5 feet of our tent one morning, which was kind of scary, but I realized deer don't really attack people, so it wasn't that scary. Top middle, you can see my diet. As the trip went on and we had less food my mom packed and more food I bought, I think my diet progressively got worse. I had Fruity Pebbles for every meal for the last 3 days, which I thought was really good. Liam got mad I didn't eat vegetables enough, he said, but I disagreed. Top right, and then is the waterfall. There's lots of waterfalls in these parks, and you would think they would get less cool the more you see, but every single waterfall we saw was equally cool. Well, except for Niagara, which was the coolest. But all the other ones were still equally cool. Bottom right, there's like this big loop you can do, which was like 8 miles, which was actually like a lot of hiking, and I was really tired. But it was worth it to see these waterfalls. And then the big appeal of Shenandoah, it has actually one of the top 15 ranked hikes in the world. It's called Old Rag Mountain. Sadly, we went when it was foggy. So normally when you hear, it's a really good view. And I can imagine if when you go back, it'll be really pretty. But as seen in the video, this is what the view we had, which isn't very appealing. It's just fog. It actually hurts your head if you just look at the fog. Like your brain can't process there being nothing, and it gives you a headache. That ended up being like a 6-hour hike we did for that view. So make sure you check the weather. The next place we went was the Great Smoky Mountains, which are down in Tennessee. We ended up only being there for like 2 days because, as I said, in Shenandoah, the weather wasn't always great, so all of our stuff got wet, and you can only last so long with a wet sleeping bag at night, and eventually you have to call it, because the sleeping bag, the LB ones, I don't know if you have one, they don't dry. If you leave them out, they really just don't dry at all. But we were in the Smoky Mountains. We were there for 2 days. This is the big hike. It's part of the Appalachian Trail of what we did. So it's like 5 miles in, 5 miles out. And we actually got to meet 2 people who are planning on hiking the whole Appalachian Trail, which was super interesting to hear them talk about, well, hiking the Appalachian Trail. And then it's kind of funny because when you're there, you can see the signs that say Katahdin, Maine, because it says the mile markers for how far they are, and they're actually coming towards Maine. And then, yeah, this is the hike. This is the view we had. It was super worth it. I wish we went to the Smoky Mountains first now, because I think it has the most to do. It's just, after like 2 weeks of camping, you get a little sick of it, and at this point, I think we were just ready to go home. So I would recommend going to the Smoky Mountains. I think we were just a little burnt out at this point. Big takeaways from the trip. The outdoors are awesome. I recommend you guys go all the time you can to see any of these places on this list. I made a lot of memories with my brother that I'll never forget. We have these stories now that we can tell and talk to each other about forever. So this summer especially, make sure like you go do things with people you like and make these memories, because it's a lot of fun. It really is. And then also I learned how to be decisive. I'm normally an indecisive person, but when I was on the trip, the only person I had was Liam, who was not much help in a lot of situations. So I had to make a lot of decisions for myself, which I was not used to, but when I had no one else to rely on, I really got better at it, and I learned how to do these things independently, which is probably important going to college next year. Thank yous. Thank you to my dad for always believing in my project and then convincing my mom to let me go on the project. Thank you to my mom for calling me every day to make sure I was safe, even when there was no service and the call couldn't get through. Thank you for Mr. Dierberg for being my project advisor. He was helpful with tips. Thank you to Liam for coming with me, because I actually would have been bored without him, even though everything I said. Thank you for Molly Shen for helping fund the project. And thank you for FHS, Ms. Pearson, Ms. Levitt for this opportunity. Questions? Ms. Levitt.
Do you have any aspirations to do a full Appalachian Trail hike?
Do I have any aspirations to do a full Appalachian Trail hike? Well, my mom has shot me down every time I've asked to do it. I think it would be fun, but I also learned that I kind of got sick of camping after 2 weeks, and the Appalachian Trail takes longer than 2 weeks, so maybe not anymore. Max. My favorite park, the park I had the most fun at was the New River Gorge, but the Smoky Mountains probably is the coolest park in the end. Miss Curry.
Actually, I was planning on going to the Cuyahoga Valley Park this summer.
Mm-hmm.
How close is it? Cleveland, and did you see the Erie Canal stuff?
It's like an hour, I'm pretty sure, out of Cleveland for one. There is they have the Erie Canal things built in. You can see where it used to be, or is it? I don't even remember. But I remember there was these gates that were in the thing that we're talking about, the Erie Canal. If you do go, I recommend you bring your bike. It's a big biking park. We did not bring our bikes, but there are a lot of people doing that. No problem. Miss Blyer.
What was one of the greatest challenges over the duration of the trip?
The question is, what was the greatest challenge of the trip? It probably ended up being keeping the cooler cold. Our ice melted a lot, and it ruins everything in the cooler. Our eggs, the carton fell apart, and then all the eggs cracked, and it got in the water, and it was really, really gross. So that was probably the biggest challenge. Oh, Sadie. Yeah, gas is really expensive. Someone tell Biden to lower it, please. That would be very helpful for road trips. It's kind of mean of him to keep it so high.